Hello and welcome to the physics class. Today we will be diving into kinematics of motion, the science of describing motion using words, diagrams, numbers, and equations. Kinematics focuses on how objects move and not why objects move. We describe motion using four key terms: position, displacement, velocity, and acceleration. Position is where something is or the location of something. For example, a person is standing in point A, and point A is the origin of his motion. Let's say this is at 0 meters. So we would say that the position of the person is 0 meters. If it so happens that the person moves from point A to B, the person gains what we call displacement, or how far a person or something moved and in what direction. So if the person moves to point B, and let's say point B is 10 meters away from point A, then the person's displacement would be 10 meters. Again, the position is initially at 0 meters. But once the person moves to another location, that would be a different value. Whereas for displacement, if the person moves from point A to point B, then his displacement would then be the distance between A and B, or that is 10 meters. Don't forget that since the change in motion is to the right, you must include the direction as well. So you would say 10 meters to the right. This is because displacement is a vector quantity. A quantity that does not include not just the magnitude but also the direction. Now velocity tells us how fast the motion is and in what direction. To quantify how fast something is moving, we need another quantity, that is time. Time can tell us what is the rate of change in the position of an object. In this example, we have a person that moved from point A to point B. And the change in its position is 10 meters, which is again known as the displacement of the person. Now let's assume that the time it takes to move from point A to point B is 10 seconds. Which means that the person is moving at the rate of 10 meters per 10 seconds. Which is basically the definition of velocity. It is simply the displacement or the change in the position of the object over a certain time interval. Which is the rate of the change in its motion. In this example, it is simply 10 meters per 10 seconds, or 1 meter per second. That is the velocity of the person, and don't forget to indicate the direction which is to the right. Finally, for acceleration, it is simply the rate of change in the velocity of the person or object. Now let's assume in this example once again that the person starts his motion at 0 meters per second, or its velocity is 0, or it is basically at rest. And upon passing to point B, its velocity is 1 meter per second to the right. Then, the acceleration of this person would then be the change in velocity over the change in time. Now let's say that again the change in velocity is the difference between the initial and final velocity values. So when we talk about difference, we mean subtraction. We're going to subtract the initial value of velocity from the final value. The initial value is 0 meters per second subtracted to 10 meters. 1 meter per second. Divided by, let's say again, the time interval of 10 seconds. So that is 10 seconds minus 0 seconds. And that would be 1 meter per second over 10. To simplify the value, we perform dimensional analysis. So the seconds in the denominator will be squared with the seconds in the numerator. Therefore, our final answer would be 0.1 meter per second squared to the right, because just like velocity and displacement, acceleration is also a vector quantity. And that is all for this video, a basic definition of the 4 key terms in kinematics of motion. Thank you for watching.